Hey everybody, it's should be 7 o'clock, I think. I just covered up my watch, so I don't know exactly that it is, but it was like 6:59, so I'm going to assume that we made it on the 7 o'clock time frame. I appreciate you coming on tonight. This is a subject that I've been working on myself, so it's kind of personal, and I've got some working knowledge with it. So I'm going to try and give you some ideas that I have learned, and also some ideas that I've picked up from other people. So this week, if you don't know or haven't figured out, is what I'm calling Habit Week, because habits are such a big part of our lives. They're something that we cannot get rid of completely, because we are habitual beings. But bad habits are the ones that we want to work on and to see if we can eliminate and to generate some good positive habits to help move our life along and kind of get us off of ground zero and go on. But bad habits interrupt our life, and they prevent us from doing the things that we know we need to do in order to be successful in life, regardless of what your definition is of that success. They certainly keep us from meeting our goals. They jeopardize our health. They jeopardize both mentally, physically, spiritually, and they waste a lot of time. And those are the things that we want to kind of focus on, or that I want to focus on during this training, so that we can learn to get rid of some bad ones, institute some good ones. Wendy Wood is a psychology professor at the University of Southern California. And she did a study of a group of people, moviegoers. These were people that had the habit of buying popcorn every time they went into the movie. And she found out that people that are habitual popcorn eaters at movies will eat stale popcorn just as quickly as they'll eat fresh popcorn, because it has nothing to do with the popcorn. It's the intentional mind that affects it, and it's that intentional mind that causes us to fall back on habitual things that we do. She said 40% of the time we're not even thinking about what we're doing. And if you follow along with this a little bit, I think I can make this point come home to you. Psychologists tell us that the average human has between 50,000 and 70,000 thoughts a day. That's on average. Now, if you're like me, you're not average. I can't imagine that I have 50,000 thoughts. Now, it's certainly not 70,000. But then again, after I think about it, I could be in that average category. Just think of the things that you do every day, starting out from the moment you get out of bed. First thing, and this may not apply to everybody, but this is kind of like a spectrum of things. But most people get up to an alarm clock that goes off at the same time every day. They get up and they start a routine that they do the same time every day, which, and I'm not reading anybody's mail, but generally consists of going to the bathroom, brushing their teeth the same way with the same toothbrush, the same toothpaste, then taking a shower with the same soap that you've used for several months or whatever. And your shower routine kind of goes in that same cycle. I'm not going to give you a lot of too much information thing here, but myself, I go into the shower, first thing I do is wash my hair. Second thing I do is bathe. So, but I do that in that order nearly every time. And if I break up that order, I find myself, and this is going to give you a little bit of insight into my age, but I find myself like forgetting to rinse my hair or forgetting to rinse under my arms or something. It's whatever interrupts that process throws everything off. So now back to our analogy. You get out of the shower, you start getting dressed, or you start putting on makeup, or for guys, we shave, but we do this every day. We go in and we get dressed, but we've got this cycle that we've got to do. Once you get dressed, you go in and you eat breakfast, and then you get ready to go because you've got to leave at the same time every day. You get into the same vehicle, drive the same way that you do every day to the same job, that you do the same things over again. Now, regardless of what your job is, whether you're working in the public or you're working on a factory line, your job is going to fall into that repetitious category. So we spend the same 8 hours or 9 hours, 10 hours, whatever, on the job. We're all right, Brenda just told me that we're breaking up about every 5 seconds. I don't know what's causing that, but hopefully it'll get better. But we do the same job, we work the same length of time, then we go out and we get in our car, the same one we came to work in, and we drive the same way home. We get home about the same time and we start our home routine, which is basically going in, we greet the family, have dinner, sit down before the television or before our laptop or computer, tablet, whatever. We look at Facebook, we spend a couple hours, and we're off to bed at the same time, just to start that whole repetitious cycle again. So a lot of these things we don't even think about because they're habit. They get ingrained. And like I was saying about the shower, if anything interrupts that, that's why going to work and getting in a traffic jam or having somebody cut you off, that's the reason why that has such an impact on us, because it's interrupting our habit, and we've got to then come back to that habit to get things back on track. Charles Duhigg wrote a book called The Power of Habit, and he calls this the habit loop. And he says that there's generally some cue or a trigger that signals our brain to turn a behavior into an automatic routine. Parallel parking is an example that he gives. If you're a parallel parker, a lot of people don't like that, but if you are, and if you're good at it, you just zip up beside the car, you look behind you to see what's there, and you kind of judge things, and you just whip back into that space. Sometimes it gets so automatic. Driving, for example, driving the same way every day gets so automatic, we can carry on a conversation with either a person sitting next to us, we can carry on a conversation with a person on the phone, and obviously the number of accidents that we have on the roads today, a lot of people can drive, think they can drive, and text at the same time. That's the one that gets everybody kind of screwed up, but so please don't do that. But the thing of it is that we start doing these things, and we do them for so long that they become second nature, as we say. And in his book, Duhigg says that that's not really a bad thing, because the more we do automatically, the more it frees our brain up to think about other things and create new ideas and that kind of thing. But the thing that all of them, and I'm trying to kind of jump through my notes a little bit, the thing that most everybody that I read today or in the past week or so, the common thought among everybody, psychiatrists, psychologists, researchers, whatever, is that it's never too late to break a habit. Some habits are difficult. Some habits are easy. For example, there may be two ways that you can go to work. So in the morning you may get in your car and you think, well, Ken just told me about this habit that I've got, so I'm going to break that. I'm going to go another way. And the thing of it is, if you may not break the habit, you may just shift the habit into another. Crystal, I didn't say hi to you. I'm glad you tuned in tonight. So we want to talk a little bit about habits that we have, maybe how we got that way a little bit. And if you haven't, as I mentioned earlier, if you haven't read my blog from yesterday, I would encourage you to go to kenandbrenda.com, check out the menu and go to my blog and read the blog from yesterday, which is called How Did I Get Here? It gives you a little bit of information about what goes on in the brain and how these habits become so ingrained. Toby, good to see you, man. So, interesting thing about habits and breaking habits. One of the things that we know about habits, as I just pointed out to you, is that it is a habitual action that we do on a repetitive basis. Alcoholics Anonymous, great organization, highly successful. There's millions of people that have been touched by the work that Alcoholics Anonymous do. Let me give you a couple interesting facts about Alcoholics Anonymous, and this is in no way derogatory. This is just amazing to me. There's no scientific structure to Alcoholics Anonymous. The gentleman that started Alcoholics Anonymous was not a psychiatrist, not a psychologist. He was an alcoholic. And he came up with this program, and it's called the 12-Step Program. And now today, many years later, we've got 12-step programs for how to quit eating ice cream. And it's because they've been proven to be so effective. But the interesting thing about the original 12-step program is that the way he came up with 12 steps is because he was experiencing a religious impact on his life. And he was in bed one night writing out all of these steps. And he came up with 12 because there's 12 apostles in the Bible. There's no magic bean to the number of 12. It was just something that he hit on, and it worked. And it's changed the lives of many people. The interesting thing about that, or the important thing that we need to take away from that, is that Alcoholics Anonymous provides a family. It provides support for someone that is trying to stop drinking, and that's the important part. It's not the 12 steps, however they are important. It's that family and that camaraderie and that support that people get that actually helps them to break those habits. And if you're a person that goes to Alcoholics Anonymous for the first time because you're trying to break the cycle of drinking, more than likely you're going to sit in that meeting and you're going to look at people in that meeting and you're going to think to yourself, and this is not anything derogatory toward anybody, this is human nature. You're going to look over there and you're going to see somebody that is either at a different point in their life. They're either unemployed or broke or divorced and their family's falling apart, and you may be sitting here with a good job, but you know that it's tearing your life up. But you look across over there and you see this person and you say to yourself, they've been sober for 3 years, so if they can do it, I can do it. And that's what propels us or motivates us to continue a habit. So I want you to keep that in mind, because that's going to be interesting piece of the puzzle that we're going to plug in here in a little bit. So what causes us to be habitual people? As I wrote in my blog yesterday, and I can't tell you enough, I would love for you to go over there and read it. When a baby is born, they have 41% more neuron connectors in their brain than a full-grown adult. Now, obviously, that newborn is not, at that moment, is not more intelligent than a grown adult. However, I've probably met some, and you have too, that you could probably wonder about. But anyway, so what happens with that infant is that they're like an empty slate. They're sent into the world with a complete blank piece of canvas that they can add to for the rest of their life. And what happens with our brain is that as you start to learn things and you start to do them time and time and time again, some neurons and some synapses are built up, some are broken. Perfect example is an instrument. Somebody that plays an instrument. I've tried, no, I can't even lie to you about that. I've messed around with learning to play the guitar, and I can strum a few chords, but I'm not a guitar player by any stretch. But a person that starts to learn the guitar and practices on a consistent basis. Hey, Christine. Hey, Kathy. Thanks for getting on. That person begins to, as they increase their skill, they begin to increase the strength of those synapses, and that causes it to join the part of your brain that is musically inclined. And it becomes, every time you practice, every time you play a song, or every time you spend time on that guitar, that connection gets stronger. But what happens is that, let's say you are a musician, but you are not mechanically inclined. That's because your brain has built a stronger connection to music, and it's cut the connection to your mechanical skills. Now, I don't mean that they're not there anymore. I'm just saying that the synapses has been pruned, and that's what they call it. It's actually used in science, that your brain prunes those synapses. But the biggest thing, and as I mentioned in the very beginning, we're not capable of eliminating every habit that we got, because some habits are good, some habits are important. So it's the ones that we find ourselves being limited by, or affecting our life in a way that causes us to act a certain way that we don't want to act. Those are the ones that we're going to concentrate on. Those kinds of habits are generally caused by one of two reasons. It's either stress or boredom, and that is scientific information. I'm going to throw you a kinism in there. I think the third thing is your environment, because a lot of people have learned habits from their parents or their brothers or sisters or whatever. Smoking is one of those, and again, I mentioned in my blog, and I'll say it again here. I am not going to get on the case of anybody that smokes. I'm just giving you some information, okay? So don't think that I'm beating you up if you're a smoker. But a lot of kids start smoking because their parents start smoking or have been smoking. Now, it's probably not so much today, because I think the statistics are going down. But I'll give you a personal example. I have a sister that is 74 years old. She's been smoking since she was 14. She was telling me the other day that my dad woke her up one morning when she was 14 or 15 or whatever, and said, "Come on, sis, come out and have a cup of coffee with me." He'd never done that before. Not that he hadn't woken her up before, but he never invited her out to have coffee out on the porch. And she said she got out there and he reached over and grabbed his cigarettes, because my dad was a smoker, big time smoker. And he handed her a cigarette. And she just kind of looked at him, and he says, "I know it's you that's been stealing my cigarettes. So if you're going to smoke," he said, "you might as well smoke in front of me." She'd been smoking a long time before that, and actually scarfing the cigarettes, which, you know, there's only 20 cigarettes in a package, so that's not a big math problem to figure out. But then what happens a lot of time is that after that habit has started, hey Chuck, after that habit has started, then the triggers may become stress or boredom. Eating is one thing, and I can attest to this because I'm a boredom eater. If I'm sitting on the couch watching television and a pie commercial comes up there, guess what I'm gonna want to get a hold of is a big piece of pie or whatever. But if we have cookies in the house and I get to a point that I am just kind of coasting along, a little bit bored, you bet your bippy I'm going to be in there eating those cookies. Not that I need to, but I'm bored. So the things that has to happen in order to break that habit is that we first have to become aware of what it is that's causing that, what the trigger is. And becoming aware of your habits is the biggest thing. And it's a huge thing in Alcoholics Anonymous and the battle against alcoholism, or the battle of drug addiction or whatever. You have to figure out what it is that's triggering that, and then become aware of what's doing that. Hey Sylvia, appreciate you coming on. So you have to start asking yourself, and it's really good if you can do this and write it down. You ask yourself when does this happen? What is my trigger? Is it cigarette after meal, or is it a candy bar after lunch, or is it McDonald's in the first thing in the morning, or whatever? But just become aware of when this is happening to you and what the trigger is. Then become aware of how many times you do it in a day. Associate where you are at the time that this trigger hits, because a lot of times that will be the triggers, just the location and your environment. People that you're with. Do you smoke more when you're out with your guy friends or girlfriends, or I've had hundreds of people say, "I'm just a social smoker. I smoke when I drink." Well, that's your trigger. So all of these habits, and this is another thing that we kind of have to come to grips with. All of the habits that we have are in our life for a reason, regardless whether they're a good habit or a bad habit. And I'm not saying that it is, like sent down from God kind of reason. I'm saying that something created that, that allowed us to form that trigger and form that habit. So becoming aware of what your habit is, or what your habits are, if you have multiple things that you're trying to break, is crucial. Because knowing that you have the habit is the first step. Alcoholics will say, or drug addicts will say, the first thing that I had to do was to admit that I had a problem. I think that may be actually step one in the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous and everything else. Admit you've got a problem. So, first thing we need to do if we're trying to break a habit is to admit that we have a problem and that we need to get rid of it. And please don't misunderstand. I'm not just talking about serious things like cigarettes, alcohol, whatever. It could be food, it could be television, it could be anything. I'm talking about a habit that affects your life in a way that you don't want it to do it anymore. because that's how we're going to break these habits. Kathy, appreciate you getting on. So once you have identified these habits, and once you've kind of gotten an idea of what it is that triggers you to do these things, then the key is to eliminate those triggers. So if you say to yourself on your list, I only smoke when I drink, or vice versa, I only drink when I smoke, whatever that is. If it's one or the other of those, then stop the one that triggers it. If you smoke when you drink, do you only smoke when you drink outside the house? Or do you smoke every time you open a beer at home or a glass of wine at home? Those are big issues that you need to come to grips with and figure out exactly, because if it's a fact that if you go to the bar, you're going to smoke, or if you go to the bar, you're going to drink, then the next thing you need to say to yourself is don't go to the bar. Now, I'm trying to stay away from preachiness, so please give me a little latitude there. One of my good buddies that is actually on tonight, if he's still with me, he quit everything cold turkey and was successful at it. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a secret to that in just a minute. But another mentor of mine in my mental journey that I've been on for 50 years, Wayne Dyer, made the statement in one of his presentations and also in one of his books that the only sure way, and he used smoking as an example, the only sure way to quit smoking is to never put another cigarette in your mouth. That is the key, but it's right here. It's that decision that you make to do that. So we got to make those decisions to cut out the triggers. Change the environment. Again, if there's certain people that you're around that you just can't be around and not smoke or not drink or not gossip or what it is, not gamble, whatever the habit is that you're trying to break. If there are people involved, you may need to change that environment. And I'm not saying start cutting your friends out of your life, although that can happen and may need to happen at certain times. But you have to change the environment. So what we're doing now, we're up to learning what our habits are, learning what the triggers are, and then breaking those triggers. Changing our environment, whatever that needs to happen. A good way of staying true to breaking a habit is to join forces with somebody. And again, that is the secret to any 12-step program, Alcoholics Anonymous, whatever, it's that camaraderie, it's that family, because it's a lot easier to break a habit if other people know about it. And if you've got somebody else that's actually trying to break the same habit, then you've got a support system. And you can hold each other accountable. And it doesn't have to be one or two, it can be 20 or 30. But that support keeps us accountable and helps us to do the things that we need to do. The other thing, and this is kind of related to that, is that you surround yourself with people that live the way you want to live. One interesting statistic or finding that I've read many times says that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you look at your circle of friends, the 5 closest friends that you've got or associates, and they aren't living the kind of life that you want to live, if they enjoy going out and partying and getting drunk and smoking and whatever, and you don't, then that's got to stop. You've got to make that decision. The other thing is you're going to feel like, if you're trying to break this habit, you're going to feel like you are becoming someone entirely different. And sometimes it's not hard to get that impression from external stimulus, that you actually have to, I can't no longer be Ken anymore. I've got to be Ken the churchgoer. I've got to be Ken the non-drinker. I've got to be Ken the non-smoker. I've got to be Ken the no Big Mac eater. Whatever that is. But that's not really true, because that habit's not been with you all of your life. Regardless of what that habit is, that it has not been with you all of your life. There's a period of time when you did not do the thing that you're trying to break. So you've already been there once, and you can get back there again. It's hard, it's a struggle, but all you got to do is go back to the real you, because the you that you're trying to improve is not the real you. It's the you that you stuck all these habits onto, and we got to shed those to come back to who we really are. Now, one of the things that I can tell you in my own personal journey is that negative self-talk will eat your lunch. You cannot allow that to happen. So you have to be aware of every time that you're saying something negative about yourself. Instead of saying I'm fat or I'm stupid or whatever it is, don't use those identifiers, because that's actually what you're doing. You are identifying yourself as whatever it is you are working against. If you're overweight and you say, I am fat, you're telling your brain that's who I am. And it's not you that's fat, it's your body that's fat. And you can change that. So you have to kind of reverse those negative thoughts, and you'll get them. Don't fool yourself to think that you will not get them. You will get them. So instead of saying, I'm fat, say, I am working toward my healthy weight. Use positive language to reinforce the positive things that you're doing. You will never break a habit by believing the negative self-talk that goes on in your head. We have to reprogram that. And by all means, do not allow someone else to give you that negative talk. Don't let anyone tell you you're just fat. That's all you'll ever be. One of the things that just bugs me to death is she's been smoking all of her life. Why not just let her go on and do it? That just kills me. I cannot tell you enough how much that just bugs me to death. We are never, until we're planted in the ground, we are never locked in to any kind of action or any kind of habit or any kind of physical appearance. Anything can change. I'm 65 years old, and to be honest with you, I started working out regularly about 3 months ago. Used to hate exercise. If you talked about exercise, if you were going to try and get me to go run, you better be chasing me with a gun. That's how I used to be. Now I've done it enough times that it's starting to become enjoyable. But I'm 65 years old. I waited 65 years. Or if you take out the growing up years, but I can tell you, as far back as 7th grade PE, I hated exercise. But so if we go that distance, I've gone this long without taking care of my body. So I'm working on those habits. I am exercising more. I'm eating better. Actually, I lost a fair good amount of weight. I went down from 220 to 187. and I felt great, but I looked like the poster child for an indigent nation, just to be honest with you. So what's happened to me the last few weeks is that as I've started to exercise, I started to build muscle, and my weight's coming back up, but I'm not the same. I may weigh the same, or I don't weigh 220, but my body's changing. So all I'm saying is until you have breathed your last breath, and until they close the lid on your coffin and throw dirt on top of it, you can change your habits. And it's important that you realize that and that you keep going. Okay, Brenda's giving me another message that says I'm losing connection. Is anybody that's on now, if you would, are you having problems? Is it breaking up or whatever? Can somebody give me an answer on that real quick? I'm going to continue on the assumption that we're okay so that I can get this done. So, one important thing, or just a couple more things that I want you to think about, and then we'll move off of this side of it, and we'll move on to some more discussion tomorrow and Thursday. The one thing that you cannot do, and this is one of the keys to the puzzle that I was talking about, one thing that you cannot do is you cannot unplug a habit without putting another habit back in its place. You cannot create a vacuum in your lifetime. That's why so many times if you're a smoker, many smokers start chewing gum, or they'll use patches or whatever, but something has to happen. That's why a lot of smokers gain weight after quitting smoking, is because they generally replace that cigarette with food. So don't let that become another issue for you, but you have to plug something in. So what we're going to talk about later this week in both my blog and Thursday night's Facebook Live is going to be very important if you are really interested in trying to develop some good habits. I'm telling you right now how to work to eliminate the bad habits, but I also want to tell you how to instill some good habits, and that's going to be Thursday night's Facebook Live. So just keep in mind that you cannot exist in a vacuum. If you unplug a habit, you've got to put another one in its place. I don't know how many times I've seen people that have gone from being an addict of some sort or an alcoholic to replace the alcoholism or the drug addiction with church. I've known hundreds of Alcoholics Anonymous members, and they don't like to be called members, but anyway, they replace their drinking habit with attending meetings, and some get obsessed with attending meetings. And please don't misunderstand, I'm not against meetings. If that's what gets you off of it, stick with it. But I'm also a strong proponent in taking ownership of your life and to be responsible for yourself. If you replace one bad habit with another habit that may or may not be as good, and I certainly am not saying that going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings is bad. I'm just saying be careful about how you plug another habit in there. Make sure that you plug a good habit in there. So some of the habits that I'm working on that if you want to hear more about, I'll be glad to. We can either do a phone call or chats or however you want to do it. I'm working on getting up earlier in the morning. I'm working on spending quiet time with just me, and then Brenda and I also do our quiet time together. But I'm learning to meditate more. I am working on my positive attitude, and I'm also working on trying to connect with my community. These are things that I've always thought I wanted to do, but for some reason I just couldn't create that habit because I had something else in their way. I've been writing a book. It's a historical fiction book since 1993. It's this close to being done. I'm committing to you here on this format that I'm going to complete that book, if for no other reason than to just say it's done. So I'm working on a lot of different habits that I have, good, bad, or otherwise. And I'm trying to build some new habits. I'm trying to construct my life in a way that I not only become healthier and more energetic, but I also want to become more of an influence to people that surround me. That is my mission in life, and that hit me in the head a few months back, that I know that I'm put on this earth to influence other people in a good way, not a bad way. And I'm working toward that. Still got some things to do, still got a ways to go. So if you want to join in the journey, I would be glad to be an accountability partner if you need one in whatever you're trying to do. But the thing of it is that we have to start. We have to start. We have to identify what it is we want to change about ourselves, and then we pick the time that we're going to start it, and we go from there. No time limits. Now I'm not trying to get you to a point that you say I'm going to do this in 30 days or whatever. A lot of people, a lot of writers and psychiatrists and psychologists came up with this deal that it takes 30 days to form or break a habit. Well, everything that I've been able to discover in my research, and I've done a lot of research, is that it takes anywhere from 10 days to 6 months. Some people, it takes even longer than that. That's why you cannot bind yourself into an obligation that it's going to take you X amount of days. The only obligation I want you to make, the only commitment I want you to make, is that you're going to complete it. And that's where it gets hard, because I know things like quitting smoking is hard. I know that. I've seen it. So reach out for help. Let somebody help you through that struggle. But you've got to start. You've got to identify it. You got to figure out what's triggering it. Cut out the triggers. Get moving, and get on your way. So I appreciate you tuning in tonight. I hope that you haven't had connection problems, like I guess Brenda is watching me on one of the other computers. But if you did, let me know, and I can always post this as a blog, give you the same information. I'd be glad to email it to you or whatever. I'm going to leave you with a little bit of a slogan that I've come up with, and this I'm applying to everything that I do, my business, my personal life, the teaching that I'm trying to do through this Facebook Live. You'll see my tagline a lot, and it goes like this: information is free. Missed opportunities are costly, regardless of what that opportunity is. So don't not seek information. Go get it, put it into work, and make a change in your life. I'll see you tomorrow on the blog, and I wish I could tell you what the topic is, but I did post that in a Facebook post. It's just that my feeble little brain can't retrieve that information at this point. So have a great evening, great week. Join me Thursday night, 7 o'clock Central Time, and we'll talk. I'm gonna give you an idea that it just completely blew me away, and it may do you the same way. So peace to everybody. Bye.